everyone, it's Melanie of Art Studio 320, and this week's project is an antique. It comes from the Virginia Furniture Company in Martinsville, Virginia, although when I Googled it, I found that the Virginia Furniture Company was actually established in Norfolk, Virginia in 1939. So I know at least that it might be as old as 1939. It kind of appears to be that old. It's got some broken pieces on the inside, but the outside is in pretty good shape. So what I'm going to do is give it a new skin. I'm going to take off the finish and take it down to the raw wood and see what we can do. It is too beautiful to cover up. This wood grain is gorgeous, and yes, it's oak. I can't get away from oak no matter how hard I try. I fell in love with this piece when I found it at a garage sale. I bought two for $50, and I thought that was a pretty good deal because both of them are in pretty darn good shape. Let's see what we can do with this. Stick around. This little dresser gives us clues about how old it is. The construction is funny because there's no dividers between the drawers. If you look down, you can see the floor underneath when the drawers are out. And these are how the drawers stay in place. There's no glide here. There's no glide on the bottom of the drawers. It's just these very solid pieces of metal that keep the drawers in place. It's a little bit clumsy when you pull the drawers out, but overall, I mean, this piece of furniture is solid wood, and the only thing that's falling apart really, and it's just out of place, it just needs to be glued back in or stapled in or whatever, is that one little piece, and the rest of them are fine. I mean, it's dirty, but that's to be expected. Now on the drawers, I think the bottoms have been replaced at some point. I'm not sure, but this is the only drawer that is in pretty sorry shape. So I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with that. It's cracked here, it's split here, so we'll see what we can do with that. But I mean, that's the only thing. This is the back of the drawer on this one. The dovetails, everything is solid. So I'm gonna have some fun with this. It always feels different when I have an antique to restore. I feel a responsibility to take good care of it, clean it properly so that I can bring it back to life in a good way that it honors the past. It's hard to get dirt like this, like right here, and you don't want that there, especially look at. So I've got some real fancy tools here. I just have a wire brush and another brush that's not, it's just bristles, it's not wiry. And then I have a screw that's very pointy, and I'm going to just get in there and dig out all that grime. You will find on old furniture that this is collected over years and years and years and years, and you want to get that out. I tried not to use the wire brush too much because I didn't want to scratch the wood. It took a while to clean this piece. I used a little bristle brush on the inside as well because there was just years of dirt caked up inside there, and I just had to get rid of it first. I'm only showing you a little bit of the footage of me sanding. This took a while because it's oak, but it was worth the time and effort. There was a lot of hand sanding and going back and forth from my 2 orbital sanders just to make sure I got the nicest finish possible. And I do that by using an 80 grit or a 60 grit to start, then going to a 120 and a 220, and then hand sanding with my 320 sanding sponge. It takes a while, but it's worth it. I thought I'd show you my tripod losing its fight against gravity. I had some problems with it that day. There was a big gap here. I closed it up with my clamps and some glue, and hopefully it'll stay. If you're going to repair the furniture you're refinishing, you need a good set of clamps. And you will learn over time what kind of clamps are best for you, but I recommend some larger ones. I knew I wanted the frame of the dresser to be dark, so I went with General Finishes Java. It's such a beautiful color. I use it a lot, and there's a reason why. That drawer came out beautifully. I'm very happy with that. True Bond glue really is the ticket. Now you see here, it looks like I'm really dumping the glue on, but what I'm doing is I'm pushing that glue down into the crack so that I can be sure that that glue is getting in there so that it will adhere to the other part of the wood. I can't move that piece too much or it would break off, so I had to be really careful. Now, these clamps are really important, but sometimes, it's hard to get them to grip what they're supposed to be gripping because there isn't much there to grip. That's why I was struggling with that. After I sanded the top, I realized I just wanted to have the top natural. I loved the contrast between the Java and the natural wood. This wood was gorgeous all by itself. It didn't need stain on the whole thing. And I just really wanted to show off that grain. Look how beautiful that is. I wanted to add some interest to this piece, so I decided to use a gradation of stain on the drawers. So the top one is just natural. Look at that beautiful color. Because this is so old, it's delicate. So I'm using a rubber mallet. I don't want anything to crack. I don't want anything to dent, and a rubber mallet is the best way to get that done. I wanted to show this moment where I was just thinking because it's a process. It's as you go. It's a creative process, and the color you choose may not necessarily be the right one in that moment. You might change it, and that's okay. It's completely fine. The rubber mallet worked, but I needed to glue this together. The joints weren't going to hold. It was just going to come loose again. So again, it looks like I'm globbing it on, but there's a reason for that. I wanted to make sure that it soaked down in between those holes, and that's important. You also need to pay attention to the way you're putting the clamps on. You notice I put a towel underneath the area that I had just stained. I didn't want to dent the front of my drawer, so I cushioned it, but you need to make sure that you don't tighten it too much. It's kind of a delicate balance. So the color struggle continues. This is espresso. I was trying to get that bottom drawer dark enough, and I'm using antique walnut for the middle drawer. So between those two drawers, I wanted enough contrast. This section, I could not use power tools. I had to use some good old-fashioned elbow grease to get that scuffed enough so that I could paint it. Because I couldn't sand it enough, I didn't want to stain that area. I decided to paint it black. It's called Coal Black by Fusion. And I'm using a little pointy brush here. It's for detailed work. And I do that sometimes. I'll start by cutting in and then I finish with the same brush. The second coat, I did use a wider brush. I don't like how this looks. It's blotchy. So I'm going to take my mineral spirits here. I also didn't like the way that corner looked right below it, so I decided to paint that little panel at the bottom. That's better. Now, put some stain on it again. There's little spots all over the place like this because oak is a really deep green and sometimes it's hard to get the stain soaked in there. So you have to go back and touch it up. And that's what I'm doing. This is hemp oil. This particular brand is Country Chic, and it is phenomenal at quenching your thirsty drawers. Well, friends, that's all I have for you this week. I hope you were inspired by this video. I hope it got those creative juices flowing. I'm pretty thrilled with this one. I was intimidated. It's an antique, and therefore, you know, it already looked pretty good. So to improve on that is always a challenge, but I also didn't want to alter it so much that it wasn't recognizable. This is the kind of project that you want to improve on it, but you don't want to take away from the fact that it is an antique and it deserves respect. I mean, that's how I feel about it. You can feel whatever you want to feel. It's okay. But for me, I wanted to honor it, and I hope I did that. I feel like I did. I love these vintage knobs. I think they really bring out the wood, and they just look so good. I may have trouble parting with this one. Thanks for being here. Good luck on your next project. See you next time.
You can do it.
Brightest sky, are you there?